Thank you for coming to the Southland Regional Working Group through Power and Nature. My name is Melanie Schlotterbeck, and I am the lead for this region, and it covers Ventura, LA, and Orange in their entirety, and then the western side of San Bernardino and Riverside. So it's the largest geography of our region, of the state rather, and we've got, I haven't checked out the population, but I'm pretty sure we've got the most people in our region as well. So I had a conversation with Anne maybe in November, I think, and we got to chit-chatting about opportunities that were coming up for funding, and she had mentioned one of the opportunities that was heading our way and due in early March, I believe. And so we want to make sure that we get information on ways to fund our projects. And so I know we have extra people here today from the National Park Service. So Anne, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and the team and then talk about the conservation grant that you have going and available for everyone. And we have about 30 minutes total. So about 20 minutes, presentation, and then we can go over if we need to a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for having us here. My name's Ann Dove. I'm the Conservation Manager for the National Park Service's Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program, which is the program that we'll be talking about today. And then also from our team, and I'm based in Southern California. I recently transitioned from our regional office team to our national team, but I'm still physically based in Southern California. And then we also have two folks from our Southern California office. I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves. We have Carlos Flores and Justin. Justin, you want to start?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Good morning. My name is Justin Yee. I am a planner with the National Park Service RTCA program, and I have an interest in large landscape conservation and habitat connectivity, amongst other things. So happy to be here and support Anne in this presentation.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Flores. I am also in Pasadena, focused mainly in Southern California in the San Joaquin Valley, and my background is landscape architecture.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing slides. Let me grab the screen. Let me start sharing slides. Okay, can people see the slides?
Yes.
Yes, I see thumbs up. Great. Okay, so again, I mentioned our program is called Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. So
I'm watching something while I make food.
And then just to kind of orient people to the National Park Service and our mission broadly as an agency. So when most people think of the National Park Service, a lot of times, actually, they'll mix us up with the U.S. Forest Service, which is based in the Department of Agriculture and has a multiple use mission that includes basically land of many uses is kind of their moniker. But, they have everything from conservation to natural cultural resource management, recreation, and also, providing space for infrastructure and some active forestry in some places, et cetera, while the National Park Service is housed in the Department of Interior. And the mission of the agency is to preserve unimpaired the natural and cultural resources and values of the national park system for the enjoyment, education, and inspiration of this and future generations. So that's what people tend to think about when they think of the Park Service: Yellowstone, Sequoia, Joshua Tree, etc. But the Park Service also has a second mission, or second component of the mission, which is the Park Service cooperates with partners to extend the benefits of natural and cultural resource conservation and outdoor recreation throughout the nation. So the Park Service recognizes that there are important resources in communities and across landscapes that the Park Service doesn't directly manage, and the agency supports efforts by local partners, agencies, nonprofits, et cetera, to manage their natural and cultural resources and to provide for outdoor recreation. So our program is really in that second part of the mission. So specifically, our program supports community groups, nonprofits, tribal, federal, local, state agencies, as well as nonprofits, and just neighborhood grassroots efforts with community-led natural resource conservation and outdoor recreation projects. One thing that's important to keep in mind is our program provides technical assistance primarily and not exclusively direct funding. Sometimes we'll have some supplemental funding to support our technical assistance with our partners. Sometimes we can support things like, hydrological study or, help with some specific like conceptual designs and things like that. But it's really always in response to what the community's needs and our partners' needs are. So we're a relatively small program. We've been around 35 years or so, and we have about 70 staff nationwide. And this is a map that kind of shows the distribution of staff. And here in Southern California, we have a field office that averages 2 to 3 people. Sometimes we'll have 1 or 2 interns or folks participating in our fellowship program. And then additionally, our extended team across our Pacific West region also includes staff in the San Francisco Bay Area, Portland, Seattle, and Hawaii. So we're a relatively small program, but we work throughout the entire country. So in terms of kind of give you a sense of the scale of our impact, even though we're a small program, we've worked in over 6,000 communities. And again, we work across the entire country. We've even worked in like Puerto Rico. I think we've done some work in Guam as well. And the impact of our work has resulted in more than 19,000 miles of river corridor, whether it's, doing resource protection on river corridors or enhancing water-based recreational access or trails along rivers, et cetera. Developed nearly 32,000 miles of trail and protected almost 1 million acres of open space habitat, et cetera. And I'm guessing these numbers are probably a little out of date at this point. But at least it kind of gives you a flavor of the scale of our work. And also, because we're working directly in communities where people are located, we estimate that there are probably around at least 60 million people who every day have some kind of local access to parks and outdoor recreation that we helped facilitate our local partners developing. So our program is actually kind of hard to describe in terms of like, what is technical assistance? So people think of technical assistance and they think of technical studies, that kind of thing. But we really are kind of like process people. So we help folks figure out kind of where they are, what they want to accomplish, and how to get there. So to facilitate going through that type of a process, we only work where there is an invitation. So we don't go out and say, like, you need us to help you with that. It's more, when folks identify a need for additional assistance, they reach out to us. We also value working collaboratively. So rather than functioning like in a consultant role, we like to work with partners as true partners in a collaborative sort of mode of work. And we also value collaboration in terms of how we hope our partners will also be working. So rather than partners wanting to work in a real silo, we see the value in them engaging and identifying partners, either folks they've worked with before, or maybe creatively thinking about new types of folks to collaborate with to achieve their mutual goals. So most of the staff in our program have a background in either natural resources, planning, landscape architecture, among other things. But we're pretty adaptable and we really tailor our assistance to each project and its unique needs. And where we don't necessarily have a perfect one-to-one match with our staff skills, one of the things that we like to do is figure out, what are some of the gaps in terms of the needs of the project and the partnership, and then figure out how to leverage and bring in some of that support where those gaps do exist and those needs exist. Another thing our program really values is the importance of public engagement and inclusion. So again, that idea of sort of collaboration and engagement is something that we really value, and we provide quite a bit of support often with our projects in terms of, identifying stakeholders, doing community profiles, and then identifying the most effective ways, working with our partners to identify the most effective ways to engage those stakeholders and community members. And then in terms of kind of what we're looking for, we really value the importance of lasting tangible outcomes. So as we work with our partners, we tend to try to think kind of long-term. And often we're kind of helping with projects in some of their earlier stages. and helping folks kind of lay out a roadmap or a strategy for how to work through a project and kind of help folks get set up for success and kind of help folks go through some of those process steps as well. So in terms of our focus areas, the types of projects we support are pretty broad, but they generally align with at least one of these themes. And one is building healthy communities through outdoor recreation. So looking at recreation is not just sort of a, benefit of a part of folks' communities, but really recognizing the health benefits of having those types of resources and amenities in communities, conserving natural lands, rivers, and watersheds, engaging youth in outdoor recreation and stewardship. We also do quite a bit of work around supporting organizational development and partnership development. So sometimes we get applications where the specific ask is support in developing a strategic plan or a partnership framework. And, especially with sort of collaborative conservation, large landscape conservation, some of those things are really needed and are really valuable. And then lastly, we also work with national parks where they are working to connect and collaborate with other entities outside of national park boundaries. So sometimes that can be trail planning in a gateway community to connect to parks. It can be like collaborative conservation and large landscape planning, that type of thing. So I wanted to kind of just walk through, since the focus of this group is conservation and 30 by 30 goals, we wanted to kind of walk through projects that focus on conservation that vary in scale from site-specific up to large landscapes. So this is a project that Carlos has been supporting in Los Angeles at Aldama Elementary School, and it's a project led by the PTA's green team, and they basically wanted to develop a school greening project, and hopefully we'll have a little time at the end for questions if folks want to learn more about this project since Carlos is with us. But the goals are to transform the campus using nature-based solutions to mitigate heat, capture and clean stormwater runoff, manage waste more sustainably, enhance habitat on the campus, and integrate curriculum opportunities. And then potentially longer term, there might be opportunities to connect the campus to the broader Arroyo Seco watershed, natural areas and creeks. It's sort of an extension of some of the enhancements on the campus, sort of integrating them into that bigger landscape. In terms of RTCA roles, our program helped to plan and facilitate workshops that engage students, parents, and teachers to understand site opportunities and challenges and develop design ideas. And then the long-term sort of product will be a master plan for campus greening that has some conceptual site plans and opportunities to connect the campus to natural areas, systems, creeks, etc. So moving up a little bit in scale, this is a project in Reno, Nevada. And this was a 219-acre abandoned golf course that was in an area where there was sort of a confluence of waterways. So this golf course, the transportation agency planned a major arterial road right through the middle of it lengthwise, which basically made the city-owned golf course no longer feasible to function as a golf course. So the philanthropic partner to the city wanted to use that site to transform it into a nature study area and do some wetland restoration and integrate some educational opportunities onto the site. So our role in that process was, our project was to help them design a participatory planning and design process, as well as a community engagement strategy. So we organized some workshops, community meetings, etc., and then developed a conceptual plan for the site, which ended up being adopted by the city for implementation. So moving up in scale a little bit even more so, this was really a partnership development and management planning project in Pierce County in Washington State. So the real focus of this effort was to develop a joint management plan for the Carbon River corridor. They integrated a lot of different goals, including trails, restoration, and cultural resource protections. And so this was a really like a big effort to bring together a lot of different land managers and agencies. So there was the county, U.S. Forest Service, Mount Rainier National Park, as well as a range of regional and local stakeholders and organizations to develop this joint management plan. So in terms of organizational development, this is a project in Los Angeles. Some folks might be familiar with this organization, Citizens for LA Wildlife, or CLAW. And this was a grassroots effort to look at habitat connectivity through the eastern Santa Monica Mountains, which most people know as the Hollywood Hills. And so RTCA provided support to them to develop a strategic plan, to conduct some workshops to figure out how the group can grow and really articulate their goals in a way that will set them up strategically to attract resources and move towards their long-term vision of a connected landscape through that area. And the last two projects I wanted to touch on are sort of like big, mega, large landscape projects. This one is kind of interesting because it spans Canada and upstate New York. This is the Algonquin to Adirondacks project, which spans Ontario and Quebec, Canada into New York. And so this is an effort that really started on the Canada side, and they wanted to stand up a nonprofit organization, like a sister organization on the US side to facilitate large landscape conservation. So our role in this project was really to help with organizational development, strategic planning, partnership development, et cetera. And then the last project I'll touch on real quick is one that Justin is leading on behalf of our program side, and that's the Mojave and Colorado Deserts Biosphere Region Strategic Plan. So this is an effort that's related to the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve Program. So this area is a designated biosphere reserve. In the US, they call them biosphere regions. It's been established a while, but the partners wanted to sort of reinvigorate this effort. So they engaged RTCA in requesting assistance with partnership development and also strategic planning for this area. And this biosphere region includes three national park sites, so Death Valley, Mojave National Preserve, and Joshua Tree, as well as Anza Borrego Desert State Park. There are also several military installations, a lot of BLM land, and then also communities throughout this landscape as well. And what's a little unique about the Biosphere Region program is it's not just about conserving biodiversity, it's also about connecting people in place. So it's sort of a more holistic, integrated approach in terms of looking at sort of these large landscapes and biosphere regions. So in terms of how folks apply for our assistance, you can visit our website, and Justin said he could drop some links in the chat. We have a publication, it's kind of like a catalog that gives sort of a more detailed overview of the types of projects we support. If you have an idea for a project that doesn't seem to fit any particular category, there's probably a good chance it's still appropriate for our program. Basically respond to community needs as long as there's some kind of nexus to natural resource conservation and outdoor recreation. We also really encourage folks to contact our program before they apply. A lot of times we can help folks kind of articulate what their request is. We can also review draft applications and provide feedback ahead of time. That's really helpful for everybody. And you can download and complete the application from our website. The application, if you've ever applied for direct funding, particularly from a state or federal agency, this application is really, really simple. And then basically you just submit the application and supporting materials, and the deadline's March 1st. In terms of what's included in the application package, there's a completed application form. It's only a few pages long. We ask for a site location map. One thing that can sometimes be the most challenging is we also request that there be a minimum of 3 commitment letters from other partners than the primary applicant, describing their roles, responsibilities, and contributions to the proposed project. Sometimes projects aren't far enough along to have those commitments, but as long as there's some information about what's anticipated moving forward in terms of developing those partnerships and engagement, that can be enough. And then folks are welcome to provide additional supplemental information. So with that, here's our contact information. I would say if you have any specific project ideas, you want to chat about a potential application, et cetera, probably reaching out to Carlos or Justin would probably be most effective, because you probably get routed to them anyway, even if you reach out to our regional program manager. So they would be taking the lead in looking at applications from Southern California, working with folks as they have questions about the application, reviewing drafts, et cetera. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and then see if anyone has any questions for any of us.
Yeah, while folks are thinking about their questions, I'll encourage you to raise your hand so we can do this in order. And I'll ask a couple basic questions. One is there a max or a min in the grant application that we need to be aware of?
In terms of direct funding, because we can't really provide direct funding, it would be like a separate type of a grant program. There really isn't. In terms of the amount of resources we're able to provide in terms of staff time, et cetera, typically we award assistance on a year-to-year basis. And each year we generally provide anywhere from like a smaller project, maybe 160 hours during the year, all the way up to it might be as much as like 320 hours or more. But we don't like have a tick down thing where it's like, oh, sorry, you're out of time. We just use that for general budgeting purposes. So I don't know if that answers your question.
That's great. And then the follow-up question would be, how often does this grant cycle happen? Like, is it annually, and also, is this funding threatened in any way at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think, there have been a lot of changes both in Congress and the executive branch. So, looking at history, our project's been pretty stable over time. But in terms of we award assistance on an annual basis. So we typically have an application cycle March 1st. Is the deadline. And then we generally are able to get back to folks in early May. And then we can start working on projects kind of after that time. Sometimes we'll get requests where folks aren't really going to be ready to start till fall, for example, or they have seasonal considerations. So we just work with partners to sort of adjust to whatever their schedules are. And that's kind of part of the application cycle, is to really understand what the needs are, what the timing is, et cetera.
Great, thank you. So Barbara, you have a question.
Oh, I just wanted to see if we could get the slide deck, just because it's very, very helpful. And thank you for coming and talking. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I can definitely get you the slide deck. I don't know if I can attach a file. I can send something to Melanie as well to distribute as a follow-up.
Perfect. And then Denise.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm here in the Central Valley, in the community of Allensworth, where we have our state historic park. And a couple of questions. The first question is, define the cultural resources protection. If you can.
Yeah, so our program isn't primarily focused on cultural resources. It's primarily natural resources and recreation, but a lot of times there are cultural resource issues that overlap or are part of a project. The Park Service also has a number of both direct financial and technical assistance programs related to cultural resources. So let's say we were doing a project that related to a park or an open space area where there was a cultural resource component or goals associated with it. We would probably then work with the partners and stakeholders in the area to identify both what the needs are around cultural resource protection. Is it interpretation, education? Is it, hardcore technical assistance? And then we would try to find resources to help inform that component of the project work. And then we can also connect folks directly to some of the cultural resource programs in the Park Service as well.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I asked the question is because as a state historic park, we've had challenges in the state park system, and we've actually been talking about how can we be a part of the national park system. But something more relevant to what you're talking about today is we've been working with the Tri-County. We've been working with Tulare Basin Watershed Partnership. We've been working with the conservation agencies, Kathy Wood and a number of those people, working with trying to improve the watershed down to the slough, and that's where Allensworth is. We actually have planned for a trail connecting Allensworth State Historic Park with the Atwell Island Restored Wetlands. We've been meeting here recently with the Santa Rosa Rancheria Tachioca tribe. We had the Bureau of Land Management out with us, and all of these agencies were talking, and they're actually interested in transferring the restored wetlands, Atwell Restored Wetlands Management over to the Tachiokas. So that's in discussion right now because, you know, they are the ones that can better help us with not only restoring the wetlands, but maintaining it. So we have a lot of that activity that's underway right now. So I'm just looking at how we might be able to participate in that effort. And we've been working diligently with Barbara with the 30 by 30 group. So she's quite familiar with a lot of the work we're doing. So I'm just curious of how we could actually be able to connect with some of the work you're doing, and with the information that you've identified as something I can follow up and talk later. But I thank you for the information that you've shared with us so far this morning.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of prompting another comment to share with everyone, which is a lot of what we do involves us. Our role is a facilitator. So if there are groups of people that have overlapping interests that, you know, generally are around natural resource conservation, outdoor rec, et cetera, and they're just trying to kind of like figure out how to work together, how to put various pieces in together in a way that works for everyone, we can kind of help with some of those discussions and facilitating folks figuring out how to move forward, particularly since, you know, we're with the Park Service and our agency has goals and a mission, et cetera. But when we provide support, you know, we're there in something of a more neutral facilitator kind of role. So sometimes having somebody from the outside to facilitate those types of discussions can be really helpful as well. And also Carlos, he does a lot of work in the Central Valley, so he might be the perfect person to follow up with as well.
Yeah, and very briefly, we do outreach from time to time. We reach out to groups who we know are doing some kind of effort related to outdoor recreation. And I did speak to somebody, I forget the organization. I think it was the Allensworth Progressive Association. I spoke to a woman from that association about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and she mentioned
Desiree Begaleas?
Yes, yes, that was her.
Yes.
And she mentioned the effort, your effort to build a trail. And sometimes I hear back, you know, I present the same information and shared with you this morning. And sometimes we hear back and sometimes we don't. So sometimes, you know, we don't want to be too pushy. Sometimes groups are not quite ready to start. But if, you know, if the time is right now to do more outreach, I'm happy to follow up with you and chat about that.
Yeah, I think it would be a good thing to do so. What I will do is I will contact Desiree and let her know. I think it is a good time right now because of all the different agencies and nonprofits that we have working together with us to address this area. Allensworth is in the Pacific Flyway, bird watching, on and on and on. We're trying to restore the wildlife, connect with the Pixley Wildlife Refuge. So we are like a ground zero in a lot of the activity that's underway, and we're the populated area in this project. So, and then the things that we're doing culturally and historically, we want to see all of it kind of come together because we're not only looking at conservation, but we're looking at economic development opportunities that's not existed in this area in quite some time, and showcasing the real treasures we have in this area, like the historic park, like Atwell Island, like the whole Pacific Flyway. These are things that we can help elevate to a level that is a attractive destination point. So that's what we're looking at as well. But
Great. I'm gonna
yeah,
drop my
Carlos, I'd like to communicate with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop my email in the chat, and I'm happy to follow up.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
And then I have another question that came up. What about the review period that you have offered for the applications, how long is the turnaround time for that? Well, I'll pause and let you answer that one.
So if folks have like draft, are you talking about like before the application deadline?
Yep.
Yeah. So, at any time, feel free to reach out. Again, probably Carlos or Justin are the best points of contact, but I think historically we generally get back to folks pretty quickly, and can set up calls, meetings with whomever to chat through the process. And then the other part of that is after we do receive the applications, we basically review them. We'll have multiple staff review them, identify follow-up questions, and we often will have a follow-up kind of scoping meeting to kind of fill in any gaps. And that's also an opportunity to add additional information, provide clarification. If the request doesn't quite meet, it isn't the best fit for our program, we might have folks like adjust their request a little bit, or we might, point folks towards other types of resources that might be more appropriate. So it's a pretty flexible and interactive process. A lot more I don't want to say informal, a lot easier and friendlier than a lot of like big dollar direct grant programs. So
Absolutely. And how competitive is this grant? I mean, are you competing with 300 other applicants, or is it 50?
Yeah, it's probably closer to 50. Again, we're a small program. We're kind of a little challenging sometimes to understand what we do. And because we're smaller, we can also only do so much outreach as well. And so we really, rely on partners to kind of help amplify information about our program. The one constraint we have is often we have projects that request continued assistance after a year. So we might be working on a project a few years. So we are limited by the number of staff that we have and how much time they have available based on their workload. So some years we can't take on very many new projects. Some years a lot of staff have a lot of space for new projects. But we do generally get back to folks with an answer, by early May or so, early mid-May. So hopefully folks, if they do apply, will get an answer back, turned around pretty quickly.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. And if you would send me the PowerPoint slides, either as a PDF or a PowerPoint, doesn't matter. We will get that out to folks. So anyone that attended, if you're on the Southland list or the statewide list, you'll get this information as well as a link to the recording, which I hope to have done by tomorrow. So turn that around for folks. And Anne, Carlos, and Justin, thank you for your time. We've linked to your email addresses in our notes here, so folks can reach out to you if they need more information. So thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.